burn and brew with Coven true, and glory shall be thine.
I would just like to say that even though I am an ordained priestess in the EGC and an initiate of the OTO, the opinions expressed within this video are simply my opinions. They are not the official opinions of the OTO or the EGC, nor am I trying to officially represent those bodies in any way. Hi everyone, my name is Natalie Long. I am a traditional witch, one of the co-founders of the American Folkloric Witchcraft blog, and a Thelemite. I am involved in the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, and I am ordained as a priestess of the Gnostic Catholic Church, the EGC, the religious arm of the OTO. I'm here today to talk about the intersection of Thelema and traditional witchcraft, because for me, they are not mutually exclusive paths, but have informed each other quite a bit. You may wonder what traditional witchcraft is. For me, traditional witchcraft is distinct from Wicca in that it honors a witch's devil, old paths associated with trial records, woodcuts, all of the information that we have that we can find about witchcraft outside of Wicca, and yet also informed by Wicca, because we don't live in a vacuum. Wicca has somewhat influenced traditional witchcraft the way it's practiced now, just as Christianity has influenced traditional witchcraft, and Thelema has influenced traditional witchcraft, even though Thelema is a path that was founded in 1904. For those of you that are familiar with the occultist Aleister Crowley, it is his system of magic. It's the idea of do what thou wilt should be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Doing your will does not have to do with doing whatever you want to do. It's about finding the thing that you are put here on this earth to do and not letting anything distract you from that path. It's with love. You do this with care, and you do this with devotion. My ex-wife Lorelei and I put together American Folkloric Witchcraft. We were both practicing Thelemites. So Thelema very much was involved in the creation of American Folkloric Witchcraft, because it's something philosophically that we both ascribe to, and somewhat religiously that we both ascribe to. And I got started with American Folkloric Witchcraft. Our house had flooded. Our second degree in the OTO, which is often associated with your life kind of blowing up a little bit. And for those of you that are familiar with the OTO degrees, it's also very much associated with water. So it was very interesting magically that our house flooded. We were stuck, displaced in an RV for the whole summer. And to keep ourselves occupied, we threw ourselves into this tradition, American Folkloric Witchcraft, the Spiral Castle tradition. It's how the tradition was birthed. To keep us busy and to keep us entertained. And it's something that we had always really wanted to do, but had never found time to do. But this gave us a really good excuse to throw ourselves into it. We're both Thelemites before coming to Spiral Castle. I've been involved with the OTO since the late 90s, since I was 21 years old, actually 20 years old. It was right before my 21st birthday that I saw my first Gnostic Mass. Took my Minerval degree, which is the 0 degree in OTO, back in 2001. So I hung out with the OTO for a little while before I ever took my Minerval. I believe she had already taken her Minerval, and she had the goal of getting through all of the Man of Earth degrees, which are the first 4 degrees in the OTO. I would say are the similarities between Thelema and traditional witchcraft. I would say that they are structured very similarly because we were so influenced by the ideas of the way the OTO is structured. So when we went into figuring out what a greater system of magic would look like, we fell back on looking at the structure of the OTO, which I think is a really well-structured system. We put a lot of Thelema into traditional witchcraft with things like the witch's lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and traditional witchcraft. Lorelei and I set up different cord systems as demarcations of initiation within the traditional witchcraft structure. For us, green cord was very much set up like Minerval in the OTO, in the sense that it is for guests of the Coven, just like Minerval is set up for guests of the OTO. You get to get a taste of what the structure is about. You get to attend certain events. You get to see if it's a good fit for you, and the Coven itself gets to see if you're a good fit for it. Minerval is a word that is based in the idea of Minerva, the goddess of wisdom. So you're gaining wisdom about yourself, and the OTO is gaining wisdom about you, just to see if you're going to be a good fit or not. After Minerval is taken, you can go on and take your first degree in the OTO, and that makes you a fully fledged member of the order, with all the rights and privileges and struggles of being a fully fledged member of the OTO. With traditional witchcraft, after your green cord, you can go ahead and take your red cord. And your red cord is the link, the magical link that links you into the Coven. So those two things were very parallel, and we did that on purpose because we found that the way that the OTO was doing the Man of Earth degrees was very effective. Very much influenced the way that we set up the Spiral Castle tradition. Covens and circles. When we founded our Coven, we did not perceive that there was going to be a lineage. We knew that we were going to initiate, and we were going to see if the people that we initiated went on and did things with it. We didn't know that Spiral Castle was going to get quite as popular as it became. Didn't know that. Maybe Lorelei knew that. Lorelei has went on to set up some foundation that is structured very similarly to the way that the OTO structures groups. The OTO has a system of camps, lodges, and oases. A group of people get together that have a common interest in studying Thelema, and they can apply for a charter from Grand Lodge OTO. And if that charter is approved, then they become a camp. And the camp has certain rights and responsibilities that they have to take care of in order to continue to be a camp. If they are good at all of their rights and responsibilities, they can apply to become an oasis. An oasis has a lot more freedom and also a lot more structure. It's a reoccurring theme in the OTO, freedom and structure. They look like they're opposing, but they are not. After a group becomes an oasis, after operating for a while, they can apply to become a lodge. A lodge has even more rights and responsibilities and even more freedom and structure. Very few lodges in the United States. I think the closest one to us currently is in Cleveland, and I'm not quite sure that they are still a lodge, to be perfectly honest. they may have moved back down to Oasis. The structure of Spiral Castle. You can apply to become a coven within the Spiral Castle tradition. And then you move on to do that work, and the coven sort of moves up in the tradition. Degree structure within Red Thread Academy, within Spiral Castle tradition, within American folklore witchcraft, is structured in such a way that, especially with Red Thread Academy, and that's what makes what Lorelai's doing so wonderful and unique, is that someone who doesn't have access to a coven can find an initiatory system that other covens are practicing, and they can study and learn how to become a traditional witch with all of the rights and privileges of being a traditional witch. And yet that doesn't give them access to the inner workings of a coven. That's an important distinction, because you could study the RTA materials or study the American Folkloric Witchcraft blog and do the work there. And you still wouldn't be able to show up at a Spiral Castle tradition coven and just be accepted in, which is very different from the way the OTO is structured. The OTO has modes of recognition, so you can do the proper hokey pokey and be let into any camp, lodge, or oasis in the world to prove that you are X degree within that order, and you'll be accepted in. Craft is set up a little bit differently in that you need to actually do the coven work to be accepted into a coven. Like pulling down like the information that I need. So that's good. We have different deities in Thelema than you would find in traditional witchcraft. There's Nuit, Hadit, Rahor Kuit, Babylon, and the beast known as Chaos. Nuit is the overarching goddess of the universe. She is the circumference of the circle. She is all things, and all things are done unto her. Hadit is her consort. He is the point in the circle. He is single-minded consciousness. He is, whereas she is like the body, he is like the mind. And they have a holy offspring, Rahor Kuit. Rahor Kuit is the crowned and conquering child. He is the harbinger of the new aeon. And he is very much associated with the god Horus from the Egyptian pantheon. Babylon is a goddess that I am personally devoted to. She is the great whore, the great mother, the mother of abominations, the gateway to the city of pyramids, and a goddess of love and fornication. She is called the whore because she loves everyone. Anyone who supplicates themselves to Babylon will receive succor at her heart. Her consort is the beast Chaos, and the beast is many different things in Thelema. The beast is sometimes simply a name for Crowley himself. Crowley would call himself the Great Beast. But it's also the concept of chaos. In the Gnostic creed that we say during the Gnostic Mass, we would call chaos the sole vice regent of the sun upon the earth. So Chaos is the sun, but he is the vice regent of the sun. He is the force in the universe that is set up contrary to Psyche. And he is a force that permeates all things. So in the way that Nuit is overarching and permeates all things, Chaos is overarching and permeates all things. In the way that Hadit is the singular point in the circle, Babylon is singular. In many ways shows up in traditional witchcraft. We talk about the white goddess and the black goddess and the red god. But just like there is a hidden green god, there is a hidden red goddess. And that red goddess can accurately be named Babylon. This was kind of unintentional on our parts. We intended for there to be a black, a white, and a red deity. We did not realize at the time that Babylon was making herself manifest within the tradition as well. The hidden green god is the Lord of the Green, the Jack in the Green, the Green Man, the dying and resurrecting god. So he's our Jesus figure. And Jesus does exist in traditional witchcraft. He's the star-crossed serpent. He is just a parallel of Lucifer, the Lord of Light. He's the son of the white goddess. He's the reason that she mourns every year. Yeah, that's the green god. The red goddess is, for me, the mixture that happens when you take the white goddess, Goda, and the black goddess, Cleo, and you mix them together. She's alchemically the goddess of all witches. So the red goddess can be seen as Aradia and Hecate, and the goddess who stands in the liminal spaces and reaches into all realms. So we were very aware of when we were creating the tradition, but we didn't realize that she was the red goddess until later. And when we realized she was the red goddess, we realized Babylon has to be Babylon, right? The great scarlet whore. Natalie, you seem really progressive and interesting, or whatever, maybe not. What are your thoughts on Aleister Crowley? How did you get involved in Thelema with this seemingly horrible guy? Well, first let me say, yes, Crowley was an asshole, but he was an incredibly progressive and interesting asshole. He's our asshole. Queerest prophet ever, first of all. Okay. Crowley was openly bisexual and had an entire female persona that he would present to the world, known as Alice, while he would cross-dress and bottom for his lover, Victor Newberg. At the same time, he was involved with many different women, who he referred to as his Scarlet Woman. There was a series of these women who helped him write about witchcraft, and in one case even birthed the Book of the Law, and that was Rose Edith Kelly. If it wasn't for Rose Edith Kelly, we wouldn't have the Book of the Law, and we wouldn't have Thelema. Crowley, for all of his faults, and there were many of them, was a genius when it came to occultism and when it came to seeing patterns in things, particularly in religion, and putting them together to create a system. If you have the opportunity to take initiation with the OTO, I highly encourage you do it up to the Man of Earth degrees. Everything beyond the Man of Earth degrees are invitational only, but everything through Man of Earth is completely based on your will to do the work. It puts you through a system that refines you alchemically and will change your life. I have found that witchcraft does exactly the same thing, but in a different way. It'll put you in the 93 current, 93 being the number that has to do with love and will, the two major ideas within the system. Whereas witchcraft puts you at the crossroads in liminal space and lets you walk between the worlds. Two things are not mutually exclusive, and they complement each other very, very well. So yes, Crowley was an asshole. I am not a big Crowley fan. And I have met some people in the OTO that practice what I would call Crowleyanity. They're very interested in the way Crowley did things. I think that as magicians, occultists, and witches, we can move beyond Crowley. We're in the new aeon now. We are not bringing about the new aeon anymore. We're doing the work. Let's take what Crowley presented us with and create new things, create better things. One other important deity within Thelema that we did not talk about, and that is Baphomet. Baphomet is the figure that Eliphaz LeVay put together of the goat-headed person that is presented with breasts and a phallus and big wings and a torch coming out of their head. This is the figure of Western occultism. Baphomet is, that image can be used like a mandala to meditate on, to think about all of the different things that are encompassed within Western occultism. You'll notice Baphomet is in this position with Salve and Coagula written on either arm. Salve and Coagula are the ideas alchemically of dissolution and coagulation. This gesture is also known as above, so below. Baphomet is the melding of all seeming dualities into one figure. I could go off on a whole tangent here about duality. Do you want me to do that? Let me digress for a little while about duality. Duality is, within Western occultism, often a blind. I like to say that gender essentialism is lazy magic. We talk about feminine elements and masculine elements, and we talk about feminine energies and masculine energies, and what the hell is that? Lazy occultism is what that is. Because when you look at Baphomet, there is no male or female. There is just one. There is unity. Polarity is important, but only because it is the force that creates love in the universe. I am divided for love's sake, for the chance of union. Baphomet is the expression of union, the expression of love. Baphomet is also a fantastic queer icon. Hooray! We're looking for a queer deity to work with. Baphomet is your go-to. You may be wondering where the original overlap is between traditional witchcraft and Thelema. And that really comes in with Gerald Gardner. And we'll get to that in just a moment. You can't find a lot of information linking Cochrane or Chumley or any of these lights of traditional witchcraft to Crowley specifically. But if you go looking at their work, specifically Chumley's, there clearly is some Thelemic influence there. But it's not as direct as it was with Gerald Gardner. Gerald Gardner, we know, had contact with Aleister Crowley. And up until the point where he received a charter to create his own local body within the OTO. Where did the OTO come from, you may wonder? The OTO was really, is an abbreviation I've been using that is short for Ordo Templi Orientis, Order of the Temple of the East, or Order of Eastern Templars. And it goes back to this idea that the Templars were a persecuted class of initiates of a secret order that got their wisdom from the Middle East when they spent time over there during the Crusades. The OTO grew directly out of the Golden Dawn. The Golden Dawn was put together by S.L. McGregor Mathers and was an occult group in the late 1800s that a lot of luminaries of thought in England back then were part of. Let's see, Maud Gonne, William Butler Yeats, oh gosh, I'm having trouble remembering everybody right now, but suffice to say there were a lot of them. If you were involved in the avant-garde salon scene within London at the time, you were probably involved in the Golden Dawn, which was an initiatory system that was very popular right after Victorian England. Crowley was successful in the Golden Dawn, but he left and pirated their rituals and their system to create the AA. Crowley left the Golden Dawn and created his own system known as the AA. The AA does not stand for Alcoholics Anonymous. It probably stands for Argentum Astrium, which is the Silver Star. However, there's some debate as to whether this is actually what it stands for or if it stands for any number of other things. The AA is a system of magic that Crowley put together where an individual has one teacher and creates their magical temple and does all of their magical work completely on their own with input, instruction from the magical teacher, and then the magical teacher grades them on the work that they've done through the keeping of a magical journal and advances them based on the work that they've done. The idea behind the AA is it brings you in touch with your holy guardian angel, your HGA. The holy guardian angel is, it's like your higher self, but not exactly your higher self. For those of you familiar with the 3 souls within traditional witchcraft, you will recognize the HGA as being the white soul. After Crowley created the AA, he got married. He got married to Rose Edith Kelly, and they went on their honeymoon. And he was doing a conjuration of the sylphs to prove to Rose that magic was real. And the sylphs did not appear, but an entity known as Aiwass did appear. And she spoke to Rose, and Rose spoke to Crowley and said, "He is coming. You need to prepare." And Crowley was a little confused as to what she was talking about. And she said, "It is Horus coming from the east. You need to prepare for his coming." Rose had no knowledge of Egyptology or the Egyptian gods prior to this. So Crowley took her to the Cairo Museum and said, "I would like you to pick out Horus." And she walked right by some statues of Horus, and Crowley was snickering a little bit. And she walked right up to this very old stele, plaster tablet with a painting of Nuit and Hadit and Horus and a priest figure. And she said, "There's Horus." And this was shocking to Crowley because, first of all, the item was labeled item 666 in the Cairo Museum, which was a number that Crowley personally had a lot of resonance with because he identified with being the great beast. And secondly, because he realized that Rose was telling the truth. And a few days later, at the Equinox of the Gods, Crowley was told to sit down at noon and start writing. And Rose started dictating. She was possessed. Crowley wrote it down, and that was the document that became the Book of the Law. This was in 1904. Crowley went on to create a magical system that was initiatory, known as the Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO, based on the teachings that were laid out in the Book of the Law. The Ordo Templi Orientis, there is a religious arm, the EGC, the Ecclesiastica Gnostica Catholica. I'm not going to spell that for you.
Okay, I'll Google it.
EGC, Ecclesiastica Gnostica Catholica, which translates to the Gnostic Catholic Church. We're not Catholics. Okay, let me get that out of the way first. Catholic in the sense of a religion for the whole world. Ecclesiastical, being a church. And Gnostic, meaning to know. We do not follow the Gnostic Gospels or anything like that. We are very much based in Thelema, and we are very much a religion for the new aeon. The central and major ritual of the EGC is the Gnostic Mass, Liber 15. Liber 15 corresponds with the tarot card at 215, the devil. It is not a black mass, but it is a mass that you take a Eucharist into yourself. After proclaiming that that Eucharist is God, you yourself become God, and you proclaim yourself as a God. I am an ordained priestess within the EGC. I am very lucky to do this work and to serve my community in this way. I feel so privileged to be able to be a priestess. Interested in becoming a priestess within the Gnostic Catholic Church, I would recommend you get in touch with your local OTO body and see if they have a Gnostic Mass on their coming schedule. The Gnostic Mass is usually a public ritual that you are welcome to attend. And then make it clear that you are interested in serving as a priest, priestess, deacon, or child within the Gnostic Catholic Church. They will probably be, they will ask you to take baptism. And once you have taken baptism, then you will be able to serve as a child within the Gnostic Catholic Church. Children does not mean little children. It means that you are able to handle the tools and weapons that are associated with the ritual, and that you help the priest and priestess perform the ritual. After you are baptized, you can become confirmed. And when you're confirmed, you can become a novice, priest, priestess, or deacon. The deacon's ritual within, the deacon's role within the Gnostic Catholic Church is to run the temple and to proclaim most of the ritual. They proclaim the collects. They make sure that the incense is burning. They make sure that people are shepherded up from their seats to receive communion, and that they go back to their seats in a timely manner. The priests and priestess sanctify the Eucharist during the ritual. If you want to become an ordained priest, priestess, or deacon sacerdote within the Gnostic Catholic Church, you will need to undergo initiation within the OTO. And you will need to go through all of the Man of Earth degrees. That is Minerval, 1st degree, 2nd degree, 3rd degree, 4th degree, PI, Perfect Initiate, which is addendum to 4th degree. And then you will need to be invited up to Knight of the East and West, KEW. And with KEW, you'll receive your ordination. I would say that within traditional witchcraft, these roles that are in the EGC of deacon, priest, priestess, child, and also bishop relate somewhat to the way that traditional witchcraft is structured. The children are like initiates of the 1st degree within traditional witchcraft, the red cords. They've taken baptism. They know that this is their path, but they're still learning. Deacon is a step up from that. They become the guardians of the temple. In many traditional witchcraft settings, there is someone appointed to be a guardian of the circle. In Masonry, they call it the Tyler, and I've heard it referred to as the Tyler within witchcraft as well, in some covens. The priest and priestess are very much like the high priest and high priestess of traditional witchcraft, the magister or dame of the coven. And the bishop, who oversees priests and priestesses and deacons, is like the grand magister, the man in black, or the grand dame, the priestess who has had many covens hive off of her and has many priests or priestesses answering to her. Holy days in Thelema, and I have here the Book of the Law, and you can find the holy days in chapter 2, starting with verse 35. Let the rituals be rightly performed with joy and beauty. They are rituals of the elements and feasts of the times. The rituals of the elements and feasts of the times are Sabbaths and the 13 moons of the year. A feast for the first night of the prophet and his bride. That is a feast celebrating that night in 1904 when Crowley and Rose Edith Kelly received the Book of the Law. A feast for the 3 days of the writing of the Book of the Law. Those are holy days because Crowley sat down every day at noon and wrote a chapter of the Book of the Law while Rose dictated it to him. A feast for Tahuti and the child of the prophet, Secret O Prophet. That is a feast for Tahuti, which is Thoth, and the child of the prophet. That is the child of Aleister Crowley. So it is a way to say, celebrate your kid's birthday. A feast for the supreme ritual and a feast for the equinox of the gods. The supreme ritual and the equinox of the gods are high holy days within the Thelema. The equinox of the gods is our Thelemic New Year. It takes place at the spring equinox. And the days between the equinox of the gods and the receiving of the Book of the Law are thought of as a holy season. So there's also a holy season within Thelema. A feast for fire and a feast for water. These are the celebrations of the puberty and menarche of young people. A feast for life and a greater feast for death. Celebrate your birthday and celebrate the death of your loved ones. A feast every day in your hearts in the joy of my rapture. Feast every day. A feast every night unto new and the pleasure of uttermost delight. So a feast every day for Nuit, because all things are unto her, and the pleasure of uttermost delight. Make every day a holiday. Make every feast holy. Just like witchcraft is a way of life, Thelema is a way of life. Witchcraft is something that permeates everything that you do. You can make every meal holy, and you can make every meal dedicated to witchcraft. You can make every meal dedicated to Thelema. You can make every meal dedicated to both. There's even a ritual in Thelema known as will, where before sitting down to eat, someone at the table will wrap their knife on the table and say, do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. And the rest of the people at the table will answer, what is thy will? And the person who wrapped the knife says, it is my will to eat and drink. The rest of the table will ask, to what end? And the person that held the knife says, to fortify my body thereby. And then the rest of the people will ask, to what end? And you can continue to ask, to what end, as the person answers, until they get closer and closer and closer to defining their will. And when they finally define their will, the rest of the congregation says, love is the law, love under will. And they say fall to, and everybody eats. It's a way to sanctify your food before every meal by defining your will, your magical act. It dedicates the food that you're eating to magic. Let's talk about feasting within traditional witchcraft and the sacrament within the Gnostic Mass. Feasting in traditional witchcraft is known as the Huzul. It is the seining of bread and wine that you take within yourself to magically transform yourself and to ground and center after a ritual. It is the blood and body of the gods, and is very much, in that sense, a sacrament. It's a Eucharist. Thelema, we have a very special and specific Eucharist. We do not use bread and wine. We use wine and an item known as a cake of light. Now, these are items of some controversy. So I'm going to read to you from the Book of the Law about the recipe for the cake of light. Okay, for perfume, perfume being incense here, because cakes of light can also be used as incense. Mix meal and honey and thick leavings of red wine, then oil of abramelin and olive oil, and afterwards soften and smooth down with rich, fresh blood. Blood? Blood? Yes, blood. The best blood is the blood of the moon monthly, so menses. Then the fresh blood of a child. They don't mean
killing children.
They're probably referring to here, Crowley probably is talking about semen, blood of a child, or dropping from the host of heaven, which is the mixture of male and female secretions sexually. Then of enemies, which does mean the blood of your enemies. Then of the priest or of the worshipers, so a little bit of blood from the priest or the worshipers. Lastly, of some beast, no matter what. This burn. So everybody, this is very important. You mix all this stuff up. You make the dough, you put the blood in, you make the little cake, and then you burn it. You burn it to ash. And of this, make cakes and eat unto me. So you take the ash and you remix the cakes with meal, honey, thick leavings of red wine, and oil of abramelin and olive oil. And you put the ash in the cakes. And that is how you make a cake of light. Now, you may be wondering about some of these ingredients. Thick leavings of red wine. Thick leavings of red wine, some people boil down port and create thick leavings. But probably what Crowley meant by this, one of my sisters did some research, and it comes to find out that thick leavings of red wine are more than likely the item known as beeswing, a substance that is left on the thick leavings of red wine after it's sat for a little bit, and what you know it as cream of tartar. Cream of tartar is a leavening agent, and it works really well to be a leavening agent in cakes of light. Oil of abramelin. Oil of abramelin is a mixture of myrrh oil, calamus oil, and cinnamon oil that is used to flavor the cakes and is used as an anointing oil within Thelema. It is part of the ritual of Abramelin the Mage, which is a ritual that is created to help you get in touch with your holy guardian angel. So what you end up with are these little cakes that sort of taste like snickerdoodles because they are made with meal and honey. So they're sweet little cakes that are flavored with cinnamon and leavened with the cream of tartar. And they have a tiny little bit of ash in them that contained the infamous blood. You may be wondering, all right, so I've put my menstrual blood, albeit burnt, into these cakes. Doesn't that mean that I'm using a domination spell on the congregation? Well, it could, but that's not the intention behind it. And I think that intention is such an important form of magic. The intention behind it is to enliven the cakes, to have something in them that brings mana, chi, magic, life, the spark to those cakes, so that you can infuse them with your magical will, which is something that you do during the Gnostic Mass. And then you take them within yourself, saying, I am going to create my will from this cake. It is going to become a part of me, and I'm going to go out and do my will in the world. Gift from the priest and priestess that they have given their blood or what have you to you to use however you see fit to do your magic. I would just like to say that even though I am an ordained priestess in the EGC and an initiate of the OTO, the opinions expressed within this video are simply my opinions. They are not the official opinions of the OTO or the EGC, nor am I trying to officially represent those bodies in any way. So Jasmyne wanted me to talk about Twin Temples 777 ritual, the song that they do, the ritual that they do during their concerts. First of all, let me say I'm a big Twin Temple fan, and I think that this particular musical piece is awesome. If you're a devotee of Babylon, how can you not get into this? However, they're presenting it as if you do this ritual, you have crossed the abyss. No, bestie, no. The ritual is a dedication. It's a dedication that brings you into an awareness of Babylon and an awareness of yourself. It can set you on the path, but it is not the path itself. Okay. There's an oath that you take when you join the AA, known as the Oath of the Abyss. And I'm going to read it to you. It's the Oath of the Abyss. I, blank, a member of the body of God, hereby bind myself on behalf of the whole universe, even as we are now physically bound unto the cross of suffering, that I will lead a pure life as a devoted servant of the order, that I will understand all things, that I will love all things, that I will perform all things and endure all things, that I will continue in my knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, that I will work without attachment, that I will work in truth, that I will rely only upon myself, that I will interpret every phenomenon as a particular dealing of God with my soul. And if I fail herein, may my pyramid be profaned and the eye closed to me. Okay, may your pyramid be profaned. What it is saying here is, if I don't succeed in going across the abyss, then I don't get to become a little pile of ash in the city of pyramids. I don't get to become a pyramid. Okay, I am trying to become a saint. That takes a whole lot more than participating in one of Twin Temple's rituals, however cool they are. Now, do I like what they're doing? Absolutely. They have borrowed from the Book of Lies. You know, they took some stuff from Watara Blossoms from the Book of Lies, and they were like, let's put this into a ritual and see what happens. I have done stuff like this plenty of times for the Babylon Rising Festival, for the Feast of the Beast that we have. It reminds me of stuff that we've done for the Feast of the Beast. But again, it's a dedication. It doesn't lead you across the abyss. Thank you. Ritual 777 comes from a couple of things. First, the book 777, which is a book of correspondences. It's a giant correspondence chart that has to do with the Tree of Life that Aleister Crowley put together. Like I said, he's a genius at putting together, synthesizing different magical systems and religious systems. And 777 was kind of his magnum opus for synthesizing all of these together in one big correspondence chart. It also has to do with, like they say in the song, the 7 heads of the beast, the 7 letters of Babylon, the 7 points of her star, all of the different sevens that have to relate back to Babylon. 7 is one of her holy numbers. Her other holy number is 156. With all that being said, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to listen today. Like and subscribe on Jasmyne's channel because it's full of all of this wonderful content. She's bringing you magic all the time. And of course, as always, would like to say blessed be, and we'll see you in hell. Bye.
Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. Down, down, down the road, down the witch's road. on down the witch's road. Circles sewn with fate, unlock thy hidden